So let's talk about healing that hits different. The kind that doesn't come in a pill bottle on Instagram posts. I do love my Instagram posties. I'm talking about healing that vibrates through your bones, baby, that cracks you wide open and sings to your soul. Because today's guest, mm, 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 she's a whole frequency.
This ain't your average healing chat. It's healing through conversations with me, Lovely Brown. Real talk, deep healing, zero fluff.
Hey guys, this is Lovely with Lovely Esteem, and welcome back to the Healing Through Conversations podcast. Today's guest is somebody whose story has really touched my heart, but it didn't just touch my heart. I realized in reading about her story that she's touching people in so many different ways, in so many universal ways. It was really beautiful just learning about Miss Jeralyn Glass, who is a renowned singer. She is a Hay House author and a visionary founder of Crystal Cadence, which I love the word cadence, a sacred healing temple in Los Angeles that holds one of the largest collections of alchemy crystals, singing bowls. And anybody who knows me know that I am a frequency girl. I love when the earth talks to me. It makes me feel more connected with my ancestors and it helps me find my spiritual self. So that was just something that I really wanted to just connect with Miss Glass on. And also how she took grief and flipped it. I think when we are looking at the world and when we are thinking about what we're seeing in the world now and how much of our energy is being depleted in grief, learning different ways, learning how to fill our mental health toolbox with tools that really get us to the next level, and realizing that grief in its totality is such a huge lesson, and there can be joy in the midst of this grieving process. So, Miss Glass, thank you so much for being a part of our podcast. I am so excited to talk to you about not only you being an author, but also an opera singer and just the different albums that you've collected. I just thank you, thank you, thank you for being on this podcast.
You're so kind. I'm excited to have our conversation.
So, one of the things that I really wanted to get into off the bat, not even to dim the mood, but I love your idea of flipping grief, just reframing it. I know that when we go through such tumultuous times in our lives, our bodies are the first thing to understand the grief, but our comprehension of that grief within our bodies really is like the last thing we think about because we're trying to make sure that everything else around us is settled before we focus on ourselves. So, can you talk to us about how you even processed and are still processing grief, but where did you start?
That is a big question, Lovely.
I know, but I'm a meat and potatoes kind of girl. The salad's gotta wait to the end.
Where did I start? I mean, in the moment, so you're speaking about that 10 years ago, I lost my only child, my son. And, in the moment that you get that kind of news, you're shattered. You're in shock, and I can only say that, grief has its own very personal journey for everybody. There's no like one way to do grief, but you know that you have to go through it. And I knew very intently that no pill was going to take that grief away and that I needed to be able to breathe and feel it in order to move through it. There was no way to, because you want to just push it to the side and just say later or just say this didn't happen or however we deal with it. But I really knew it at my heart of heart, in my heart of hearts, that I had to be strong enough to feel it and not push it away. And music became the medicine. I mean, I've been a musician all my professional life, but music really became my medicine. It was my pill. It was my daily vitamin. Music became the way that I could be held in safety and in softness and in just compassion while the music held me to feel. to feel and then let the feelings release. And, there'd be times where you feel incredible anger or frustration, or it can't be me, it can't be my life. This isn't how it was. God, what happened? This can't be how it's supposed to be. But I think music helped me to come to an acceptance, and in time, again, grief journey is so personal.
So personal. And so, as I alluded to before, Miss Glass is a world renowned opera singer. And it's so interesting. Whenever I do my podcast, I'm looking for the bridge, a bridge that kind of bonds us together. And not only was it a spiritual bridge, but for me, classical music is what heals me. It's what
Mm.
kind of centers me. It's strings in particular is the thing that like the frequencies really help me. It helps me release my pent up frustration, and but it also brings out so much joy and happiness. I mean, there are times when I'm listening to classical music and I'm like, why am I dancing like this? Has nothing to do with the music. It's just the way it makes my body feel. But can you take us through your journey of becoming an opera singer and how that just how you've incorporated the lessons that you've learned into your life?
Mm. So I knew from the time I was a little girl that I was gonna be a singer. I mean, I certainly didn't know I was gonna be an opera singer because I didn't know that world at all. My parents loved, Ella Fitzgerald, Louis Armstrong, Frank Sinatra, Dinah Washington. Lena Horne was my mom's favorite singer. So, I grew up with a different kind of music than classical music, and I sang my first solo when I was 11 in the 6th grade, and, people said to my parents, "What are you gonna do? She's talented." And, they took me to a neighbor who happened to be married to Paul Smith, who was one of the great jazz pianists of our time. He played for Ella Fitzgerald, Sammy Davis Jr., Frank Sinatra. He was this
Wow.
an incredible pianist, and his wife had sung the voice she dubbed the voice of Ava Gardner in the MGM movie Showboat. And then she dubbed all of Lucille Ball's things, and she had a little career on Broadway, and then she came out to Los Angeles and was really known as a singer, especially dubbing the big stars. So she became my teacher, and at that time when I was 11, I was the youngest student she'd ever taken. There wasn't things like The Voice or America's Got Talent where you had lots of kids. So she started me very conservatively, lovely, and 30 minutes a week, and then that soon grew to 45 minutes, and then it grew to twice a week at 45 minutes, and, I mean, I was just in my element, and, she taught me so much, and then when we'd have recitals, her husband, Paul Smith, would accompany me, so, as a kid, I got so spoiled having one of the best jazz pianists of all time accompanying me, whether I was singing Somewhere Over the Rainbow or whatever it was, and so that was my beginning laying of the roots and the foundation of what it means to be a singer.
Mm.
And it wasn't till, my dream was to be on Broadway. That was just I just wanted to be on Broadway. And my parents grew up in Brooklyn and they moved out to California. And my dad was like, "Why would you want to go to New York? We left so we could come out to California." I was like, "Dad, there is only one Broadway and I want to be on it." So, they got it. And I did. I started first in Jesus Christ Superstar. I played Mary Magdalene, and then I did a national tour of Showboat, and then I played the upstairs maid in the 25th anniversary revival of My Fair Lady, starring Rex Harrison. So
Oh my.
I made it. I mean, my family said it was not typecasting to be the maid, but it was really fun. And we traveled all across the United States, and then we came back and played at what's now the Gershwin Theater on Broadway. And so that was, a big dream came true. And then one of the pianists that I work with in New York, he just said to me one day, your voice it has a lot of potential in it, and you should check out classical music. So I went to the Met and I saw a production of La Boheme, and I fell in love with it. It was like, oh my goodness, I need to pursue this. And that's how that path started. And everything fell into place quite easily. And I ended up at Juilliard on a scholarship. And then I ended up at the Zurich Opera in Switzerland. And there I was in a smooth transition, really, from musical theater to opera. And I think one thing that Annette Smith, my teacher, taught me was you are the instrument. So
Mm.
this is what I teach now when I'm working with the Crystal Singing Bowls and helping sound healing practitioners. And just we forget that we are unique in all of time. There's one of us, Lovely. I know you know that. And we each have our own unique vibrational signature. Nobody else has it. And if we stop that and we don't allow it to be expressed, it will be lost, right? So she taught me that this is this human instrument. So as I came into classical music and I realized like it's just me and these two tiny vocal cords, and I have to project sometimes over 100-piece orchestra in a 3,000 seat theater with no amplification. So I understood at quite a young age that this instrument had to have itself grounded. It had to be open to God, however you want to name that, open to that music has the power, like you said when you were listening, when you listen to classical music, like especially strings, it does something on a pretty deep soul level if you allow it
Mhm.
to, right? I know one piece I love is Samuel Barber's Adagio for Strings. I don't know if you like that one, but it's an incredible piece. And to really recognize, okay, I have to tune myself. I have to understand that I'm this human instrument. And in order to really allow the light and the love and the power of sound to have an effect on people, no matter what I'm singing, I've got to find ways to ground myself and to be present, right? And this is not necessarily something you learn as a young person, but having done 456 performances of My Fair Lady, I learned so much about discipline, about presence, about no matter what, the show must go on, and no matter what, you are professional and you deliver. And so going from that career into classical music was just, I was ready for it. And I understood that as this human instrument, we have the chance to express a light through us. And I think that has served me my whole life long. This joy and this gratitude of being a singer and having these two tiny vocal cords that can project something so amazing that's really uniquely ours. And for everybody listening, whether you are a singer or not, you still have your vocal thumbprint,
Mm.
your uniqueness, I name it your unique vibrational signature that no one else has. And I find that so many of us have like a question mark on our shoulder about, am I good enough? Do I deserve that? Can I express myself? Maybe I shouldn't say that or speak up my truth. But as an opera singer, you don't really have time to think those things because it's big singing. Again, it's a powerful expression over many people playing the orchestra in these big theaters. So that I think I worked with over the years so that when it came time to make the transition from classical music into really working with sound as a healing modality or music as medicine, the foundation was laid because I'd had a long career with years and years of performance experience and what that means to show up, be present, and allow your heart to sing and allow love to be expressed through sound.
So many questions, but so many so many questions. It's one of the things that I love that you said when you were talking about your vocal cords. I want to say last week I love science and the I love biology, and I was watching a video of a she was a classical singer, but the she had the camera down her throat and they were showing how she was singing. And at the same time, she just started playing the saxophone. It was insane. It was wonderful to watch her sing. And then she would stop and then she would play the saxophone so they could record. And then she would stop and then she would go into falsetto and then she would go back into hits. Just nerd out. That's what I did. I did nerd. My husband was like, "What are you watching?" I was like, "I'm watching magic happen because there is something so beautiful about understanding that you are the instrument. Like, no matter if you can sing like Whitney Houston, or maybe you're just a bathroom singer because in the bathroom, everybody sounds great. In the car, we all sound great. But just realizing that your spirit is put here to connect with other spirits. And I think for me, when you were talking about just learning about discipline and meeting all of these different spirits along the way. Some that helped you figure out what you liked and you didn't like. People who had voices that you wanted to emulate, didn't want to emulate. Learning how to connect spiritually to all of these different people in different ages in your life that I think really has helped you really walk into, like you said, just really kind of glide into the sound and sacred spirit sector so easily. But also, what really helped you, what made you think, okay, let me write an album as well? Like, not only am I going to
Mhm.
help you learn how to do this, we're going to create an album for you to take with you to feel it when you don't feel it.
Yeah, so, I lived in Germany for 20 years. So after Juilliard, I started in Zurich and then I made a long career in Europe. And as part of that, I would come back to the United States and I would do benefit concerts for hospice. So hospice was something that was a fairly new concept, and has been told to me that hospice is the accompaniment of when people are dying,
Right.
right? It used to be done by the Catholic nuns in the hospital. And then there started more of a movement of how do we create this transition and how do we show compassion and care? Because it's a whole different stage when someone is passing, right? So I would come back from Germany with my pianist that I worked with regularly there in Germany, and we do special concerts for hospice. And we would raise thousands of dollars for this program here in the area where I live. It would be like great pieces from classic American composers, Gershwin, Rodgers and Hart, Harold Arlen, etc. And so the first albums I made were those kinds of songs with a quartet of musicians from Germany, and then those would be sold and also help to raise money for the hospice cause. And then the next really big project I did was when my son passed. And I felt, this was part of like going through the grief. I just felt like I need to express this in song, in sound, in music, and this time add the crystal bowls to it. So I had been playing the crystal bowls for now it's almost 19 years. And my son was a little boy when I brought them home to Germany and he loved them. So he'd always go, Mommy, bring me to bed with my sound blanket. So, I would play bowls. Sometimes I'd put a bowl in his tummy. Give me my tummy tickles, Mommy.
Nice.
And we'd say our prayers together. And I just love the sound. I was using them more as an instrument, right? And so after he passed, I felt like I need to work through this and offer that, which also we then gave to the hospice community to raise money, etc. And I took classic songs like Somewhere Over the Rainbow, Forever Young by Bob Dylan, and we put singing bowls to them. It was arranged by a well-known arranger, Perry Lamarca. And I remember in that process of doing that album, there were times where I could not sing the songs through. I had to leave the vocal room because it was just the emotion would well up. But I knew as a professional, like if I could then let it come out, let it express itself, take a few moments of just feeling that, and then come back in, quicken myself, come back to my center, and then let the music speak through me. It was very healing. It was a really healing process for me because I think for many of us, when we go through a grief like that, an unexpected loss, you lose your voice. It's just like it's hard
Your
to
chakra is just choked. It is.
totally. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just hard to express anything. So that was the album is called Forever Love. Is the name of that album. So that was done in 2017, and I needed. He passed in 2015, so I needed 2 years to just start to. I mean, to just be processing it. And then after that, we did another album called Vibrance with Lawrence Hopgood, who's a jazz pianist also. Same thing. I took a classical piece. I took Eric Satie's Gymnopédie. So it's a beautiful melody that's written for piano, and we did it as a vocalese and put bowls with it. And then I started making albums that just had bowls. So like you said, that were just a collection of bowl pieces. And in both of those albums, in Forever Love, we had bowl interludes. So people could start to feel, because the singing bowls weren't so popular in 2017. Now they've come much more mainstream. And same in the Vibrance, they were infused in everything in a very kind of unusual way with this little bit of jazz feel to it. And then I think the first one I did was called Sounds of the Earth. And so I wanted to, I don't know if this is too much, but I took the tuning of 432. So that's a lower tuning than music today. A little bit more it's just like I sang once an opera by Scarlatti in a 432 hertz tuned orchestra. That was very cool. So I took that and we did 3 different tracks. We did an ocean track, we did a land track, and we did an air track. So, and they all had different nature sounds in them. And that's been quite popular. So the idea for me I created also a YouTube channel because my son kept saying to me, Mom, you want to give this healing music to people, you want to have it available to them. So we did 3 2-hour loops. So anyone that wants to go on the Crystal Cade's YouTube channel can find free
Follow it.
2 hour.
I followed it.
Thank you. So I don't know if you've listened to the loops, but the idea really was, if people need a place to just chill, to be held in this container of grace and safety, that they can chill for 2 hours, whether you're doing your homework or whatever, taking a bath or cooking or just relaxing. That's the idea. And then there's something called Tune Up Tuesdays. There's a whole series of those on that YouTube channel. But it felt like my son kept encouraging me to, and he started communicating with me after he passed away. So there was a communication bond from the night that he died, really through sound vibration.
No,
So it was like I wanted to share with other people what was helping me so much to move through my grief, right? And that's where the albums came out of. So some have singing and some are just pure bowls.
no, I love
Um,
that. I wanted to pull what you just said into one, introducing people and kind of breaking down what singing bowls are, and then
mhm.
how it really helped your nervous system and helped you with recovering through trauma. Like, I want to pull that in because I want to make sure that they understand it's not just, yes, it's music, but it's not just music. It's very healing for your body.
Yeah, so the last album we did, which came out last year, was in Grammy consideration. There was 2 things, a song and an album. The album's called Pentatonic Visions, and what I did was I took the structure of the pentatonic scale, and I did it in different keys and different musical keys, and then Chris Scholler, who's a dear friend, he added different accompanying instruments. So it's a double album. Half the album is just bowls, and the other half is the bowl tracks with added instruments. So you've got like
A little
beats
bit.
to it. You have all different kinds of, so it's different moods, but underneath is always the calming feature of those singing bowls. And then I was really inspired we did a modern take on the Ninth Symphony of Beethoven. Da da dee da dee da 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 dee da 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 da. And we called it Joy Reboot. So it's wonderful colleagues and friends, Victor Wooten, who's a 5-time Grammy Award-winning bass player, Jonathan Harrison, who's a incredible kirtan singer, Londrell, who's a spiritual poet and rapper. They're all on the song, and we created a modern version of what does that mean. It's people know it as "Joyful, Joyful, We Adore Thee." It was
Yes.
used in Sister Act, in the musical
Yes, it
Sister Act.
was.
Right. So it's very famous. And the idea was because my son, when I was pregnant with him, I sang a series throughout Germany of the Ninth Symphony of Beethoven. So when he was born, that was one of my first experiences of music as medicine, because whenever he would cry, I'd put on that symphony. Boom, he was quiet as a mouse. So it was like, oh, wow, this is better than anything. I just use this music and he goes out. So it's just been with me for a long time. And that piece is probably one of the greatest classical pieces ever composed. And so I wanted to infuse it with bowls, with, different styles of artistry, and bring us together, just exemplifying this universal power of music to help us to transform and heal.
No, I love that. And so when we are, one of the things that I love about music is, again, like you said, is so universal. And to the assumption that you know what a person listens to just based off of looks is absolutely insane at this point in the world, right? Because you just never know what moves a person. And different music, different settings, different sounds create just new atmospheres and new worlds for us. And I think that as music learns how to blend and become closer cousins, second cousins in a lot of ways, we are introduced to each other in such a different way. But for me, singing bowls have always been just a very grounding space of meditation, really trying to set in, like when we're talking about being mindful, it's mindfulness turned into yourself. Not only are you trying to feel everything on your skin, but really break down where you are in your body. I always talk in my podcast about where do you feel it in your body? When you're angry, when you're happy, when you're excited, elation, melancholy, they all have these different frequencies in your body. And sometimes it makes your underarms itch or your lips sweaty, or sometimes it makes like, you feel like you have these goosies that happen to you. But one of the great things about the singing bowls is that you have a chance to experience so many different modalities in your body at in one setting, and it can help release a lot of the stress that we have in our nervous system and how it affects our organs. And that's one of the things that I just love that you are working on with helping people through trauma with music.
Yeah, because I think, as you know so well, that how do we heal, Lovely? How do we heal? It's not the pill, it's not the operation, but it's a whole process of that I feel comes from the ability to deeply, deeply relax, to touch into the wisdom of your heart, the wisdom of your gut, to connect with your soul or spirit, however you conceive that to be. But healing happens on a very deep level when we allow this relaxation, when we can get the nervous system out of fight or flight.
Yes.
Because so many of us are in fight or flight and have anxiety and have fear, and there's so many unknowns, etc. But one of the reasons I think the singing bowls are so effective is you don't have to understand anything. You just have to be willing to allow those ethereal sounds to land in your body. And then people deeply relax. And in that deeply relaxed state, there's the more production of dopamine, the cortisol production is reduced, there's
Mm.
leukocytes being formed in the blood, and this has all been, proven. So you're in this deep state of relaxation, and then you can receive inspiration, you can receive the fact that, hey, I don't need to hold on to that negative thought anymore. That pattern go, oh, the pain that's in my, right shoulder or my left shoulder or under my armpit or whatever it is. What is that? Oh, wow. There's some anger there.
Mm.
Let me breathe in there. Okay, let me just let that release. And then you're moving the energy in your body, and that helps us to heal and transform.
Love that. And I always tell people, I'm like, realizing that our throats are locked up, realizing that our stomachs are locked up, realizing that our backs are locked up, your jaw, even sometimes how you think and what you see can really play such a large part in how your organs affect your everyday life. Like sometimes you're like, I just feel tired all the time. And sometimes, yes, you may be tired, but other times it could be something that your body is just holding on to so deeply. I'm a true believer in whatever works. If you need to scream it out, scream it out. If you need to dance it out, dance it out. If music's going to work, like move your body as much as you can, and don't be afraid to, like, it's just you. If you are embarrassed by how you move by yourself, I can't change that. But just the different way that our bodies are so unique, because what works for you may not work for me. The frequency that works for you may not work for me. But learning how to accept that there are all these different nuances to how we heal. And I really was so interested in your idea behind humming and how it really helps with healing, self-healing.
I mean, humming, it's not my idea. It's been around for eons. And dear friends and mentors, Jonathan and Andy Goldman. Jonathan is a pioneer in the field of sound. So if the listeners don't know his work, please check it out. But they have a book called The Humming Effect,
Hmm?
where they really dive deeply. And, what does it mean when I'm stressed and I go, like I do it when I go to the dentist. When I get nervous that
When
what's
I'm
going to
nervous,
happen,
yeah.
I'm just like, so they know to expect that. But the power of the hum, and so I integrate it in my work, and I'm as a professor of singing, and then also working with the bowls. If I can do something like, it's not about singing, Lovely. It's about tuning into my own vibrational frequency and then expressing that, giving that room and space to be expressed. And then feelings can move, blockages can get released, and it's incredible that what the power of the hum can do. And it gives more oxygen in the blood. There's many things that have been proven about humming as really a really important tool that every single human being has, because everyone can hum.
I love that. And I love that not only between your sound bowls and the frequencies that help, humming, as we said, learning how to really project your voice for you, not for anybody else, for you, but also realizing that in those moments, we're going to hit places that hurt. and learning how to kind of sit in that hurt and figure out where it's coming from, but allowing your tears also to detox your body. Because when you are listening to sound bowls, when you are humming, when you are meditating, you sometimes become overwhelmed by different emotions. It could be a thought, but allowing those feelings to be released from your body also helps with healing your body, right? Because if you are trying, I used to be one of those people, I don't cry. I just don't cry. I don't know. I just can't cry. And then when I started crying, I couldn't stop crying, which was that's when therapy kicked in really big. But realizing that that was a part of my superpower now. It was allowing me to really nurture and water the parts of me that I didn't know needed to be watered through my tears, but also with the frequencies being in there and not being afraid of having all of your emotions released at one time, but just doing it in a safe space where people are there to embrace you and hold you and validate your feelings and emotions, because all of this needs to be done in safe spaces where you aren't in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. You just you need those safe spaces.
Yeah, and I find, I don't know how you feel, but I think that's what you're expressing with the strings. I find that sound can create this container of safety.
Mm, yes.
Music can be something that's familiar. I hear Pharrell's Happy and I just, whoa, my whole body starts to light up. Or I hear like the Ninth Symphony of Beethoven and it's just like, oh,
It
there's
it
this connection. So I highly encourage people to explore what is music as a medicine for me. How can that help to ease and to calm and to bring a centered quality and to ground me, as you were saying, and move my body, then I can release any stuck energies.
No, I love that. In that, you also with you deciding to become an author, I feel like we're all led. I feel like you were led to this. Like there were certain ways that you needed to release different parts of your grief and also embrace different parts of your healing. And I think that when you hit milestones, not just you, but anybody, when you hit milestones in your healing journey or even in your grief journey, a part of our purpose is to share so other people they have, crumbs to follow. They have places they can go to feel connected, and it can be scary because when you lay your heart bare and you are still in the midst of your storm, it's like sometimes you're not even present for you just know you have to get it out. I have to get it out, and then once you get it out, you move to the next thing. But what inspired you to write Sacred Vibrations, and how did that really just help you on your healing journey and help you open up?
Yeah, I'm so proud of my baby. This is the book, and just to know that this cover image is an actual singing bowl, created by John Stuart Reid in England with his instrument called the cymoscope. And the cymoscope helps make sound visible. And so I chose this particular bowl. It's a high F bowl, and it had 22 of these little antinodes. And my son was born in Germany at 2222, so it just seemed like the perfect image of
It's
sound. And
purpose with
you know,
purpose. Yes.
I think, I don't know, the inspiration came to me that I should write what was happening to me, because it just felt like my sisters would say to me, because my son is in constant communication, and so many miracles happened of his communications, from the radio in my car popping on, and on the screen it said his name and it started playing. I was in deep grief. I was crying and groaning and like, why can't you be here? And the screen, it lit up and it started playing Louis Armstrong, A Wonderful World. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. And I'm like, wait, what? And there's his name on it, Dylan, source unknown. And it's like, okay, son. So there was all these kinds of miraculous things that happened with his communication. And my sisters would say to me, like, this is not normal. Like, you need to share this. Like, you're really blessed, and you need to know that you're really blessed, because there were moments when I was deep, deep in the grief that I couldn't find him at all. And I began to realize, if I wasn't doing something to create positivity and to create more light and to create a healing journey for myself, I would stay so deep in despair that I couldn't find him. And then I would get even more in despair and more anxious because where are you? You know, sometimes you're here
Yes.
and then sometimes you're not. And so I think the book was really born just from, I mean, he guided it, let me put it like that. So the first thing we did was this. The first thing we created was this oracle deck. I don't know if you're aware of that. And it's that was the first product with Hay House. And it's made of cards that have beautiful watercolors. And then the cool thing is that there's a QR code on the front of the card. And so you put your phone on there and you can hear the sound of the singing bowl, right?
How
So
gorgeous is
that was
that?
the first thing. And lovely. I mean, I'm sitting, it's September one year, and he goes, "Mom, we got to make a card deck." And I'm like, "Son, I'm busy. Leave me alone." And it's like, "Mom, we got to make it." And so we'd have these conversations back and forth, and I just ignored him. You know, it was just like, "No, I can't do that now." And then in December he said to me, "Mom, you need to make the card deck now." And like, okay, so here's my son. He was a big boy. He was 6'3" and 230 pounds. He was a football player, a ski racer. When he speaks like that, it was like, okay, I need to pay attention. So,
Because he's being spoken through. It's coming through
ooh,
him.
ooh.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so we recorded actually the 48 cards. We recorded the sound bowls on Christmas Eve of that year. So everything was done in a very sacred manner. And, you know, then I started looking for self-publishing, and it was very expensive and we didn't find the right thing. 3 weeks later, after that, I'm sitting on a Zoom call with Hay House, and they offer me a contract for the cards and for a book. So it was like my son saying to me, "Mom, make the card deck now." He knew there was a path opening up with Hay House, and I've been an avid reader of Hay House books for so many years. Love Louise Hay's, you know, classic book, "You Can Heal Your Life." So that was so meaningful to me, and then the whole concept of the book unfolded.
Yeah.
So, and almost a 2-year process of really, you know, and then asking yourself, do I really wanna write about that? That's, like, so personal and so
Yeah.
private. Do I wanna share that? Would it be helpful to people? How much do you educate them so it's a book more for the general public? But then I couldn't help but go into some nerdy details as a musician, like wanting people to
Feed me
understand.
all the day.
Very miraculous, and there it was, and it was like, "Okay, Jeralyn," you know, when we were kids, there was a magnet that was given to us from our church, and my parents put it on the refrigerator, and it said, "To whom much is given, much will be required." You know,
Yes.
so as this individual, if you're smart and if you're talented, you need to do something with it. You know, if God gave you those talents, you can't just sit on them. And so I felt that was something that guided all of our lives, my family, and I just felt like you need to share this, and there it went.
No, and I love that, but I love the connection that you have with your son because I don't believe that we ever lose the connection. I think sometimes we can ignore the connection because we're afraid or we just hit times in our lives where the hurt is a little bit deeper than others. But I really think that our spiritual selves continuously stay connected is how we thrive and how our future selves sends messages back to us like we're doing the right thing or no, you shouldn't be there, or your intuition is like, girl, we don't do that. And you're like, "Okay, we don't do that." Like, that's not what we do. But how you really just took time to be like, "Okay, baby, if you feel so strong about this," because children speak to us. They speak life into us because they know. I always say, you think that you were pregnant for 9, 10 months because we were really pregnant for 10 months. I mean, it's just forever at this point. But 10 months, your child knows every emotion, every smell you give off, every hormone you give off, every smile you have. They have really memorized you. You are the blueprint. And so when they talk to us and tell us what we need to do, it's because they are speaking for us through them. It's us coming full circle, right? And I just think that you having that moment of realization that no, he's serious about this. And so let's get this done because I don't want to hear it anymore. As a parent, that's where we go. I don't want to hear it anymore. Also realizing as it's progressing, this was a divine intervention. This was a divine moment for us to have this connection that will never go away. It is a legacy that we have set forth. which then, yes, you helped heal and you're helping heal so many of us because grief is such a dark topic and we don't always know how to address it. And I think we come out, we're awkward, we say things that we don't fully understand sometimes. And when you give people a space to not have to use words, but to use frequencies, to be able to really just use music as the healing space, you you help set them free in a way. So I think that the book was for freedom of others, not just for you.
Yeah, and it's nice. And in the book, we put a QR code in the book too, and we created a film because like there's so many where I get to share the miracles. Like this is one where I'm in Indonesia and I find this big seahorse, and that tiny seahorse he had given me when I was singing at the opera in Marseille. So he was 3, he was walking on the beach, and he found this little seahorse, he gave it to me, and then I find the big one when I get off the boat at Komodo Island, where he sent me to go, and it's like, "Son, did you send me halfway around the world to show me mama seahorse and baby seahorse are forever united?" I mean, there was just so many beautiful gifts, so we made a little film or
Mhm.
you can see all those pictures in color that it's the miracles they are unmistakable. And I feel so grateful to have that experience and to be able to share with people that music creates a bridge,
Yes.
right? And music helps us to quiet the thinking mind, which many of us just live fully in there. And with music, the mind, and you get to drop into your subconscious and drop into
Mhm.
this place of the soul. And when
Mm.
I can drop into that place, there is a bridge, and it's readily available to everybody. And whether you're speaking to people who have passed that you loved, or whether you're speaking and connected to God or to spirit, however you want to name that, music helps us build that bridge. And I feel like that aspect of our expression in this earthly form is so important for all of us to know that we're not just this flesh and bones, and we're not just the stories that we tell ourselves, you're this or you're that, and you had this happen to you, and blah, blah, blah. It's like we're not our stories. We're so much bigger than that. And music can show us this path. Music can help us feel the real connection to something. I always say that, especially the music of the singing bowls, but even like the Joy Reboot, music
Yes.
takes us into the place of the ineffable. There's no words there, right? There's no words. It's like you said, there's no words you can use to describe that, but suddenly something that's been so painful for you moved. It's not hurting you as badly, or you don't feel as triggered by that person, or you find that you're not angry anymore, or you find that there's a forgiveness in your heart that wasn't there before. And it happened because you heard and allowed the experience of this particular music. And like you said earlier, there is no one size fits all. Everybody has different tastes. And whether you listen to country or jazz or beats, or it doesn't matter. Whatever you listen to, you need to find the music, each of us, that touches our soul. You can't say, okay, if you play this in the key of C, or you play this Amazing Grace or whatever it is, that's going to be your medicine. No, it's very, very personal, and it varies on different days.
Mhm. Yes. A minor is what really like in violins and A minor, just in when it's a little bit off key is what really helps get me going. Like it's something
Mhm.
about just the different tonality of violins that just have always, even when I was younger, I had my uncle who passed away who was he was like my dad. My uncle was like my dad, and he would wake me up at like 1 in the morning when he came from work, and we would watch Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers and Barbara Streisand, and so that's how I was introduced into like American classics and Broadway. So in my head as a little girl, we were always super dressed up. Like, why were we never not dressed up? But I also had this chance to go into a world that was not like the world that I lived in,
Mhm.
and that was a big lesson. And I lost him in 2009, but he still guides me all the time with who I am and how I present myself and the way I see the world. And so whenever I hear like violins or whenever I hear piano, and it's always in minors that really just set me like it's my pocket, it's my sweet pocket. So I think for a lot of people when they are thinking about music, sometimes they're like, well, it's overwhelming. It just depends on what you're listening for and where you're centered. When you are chaotic, figure out what works for you. It may not be instrumental. It may be something completely different. It may be rock. It could be whatever it is. But like
Right.
find that place that really talks about it talks to you in a way that makes you feel alive and connected with yourself and then your loved ones and then your community because it'll spread. That's why when you go to concerts and that energy that floats through the room or in the stadium and you leave and you're like, I can't believe what just happened. That was your moment of praise. That was your moment of like becoming. And I love that. And I don't want to leave. I want to talk about your store. I mean, your temple in Los Angeles. I want to really like, and how people can come visit you or connect with you and just be able to be in your presence and understand what you're helping do for the world.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a beautiful story about your uncle. I
I
mean,
love
very
him. He's always alive. He will forever be alive as long
mm,
as forever.
mm.
He helped me be the woman that I am, and I just am so grateful for that.
Yeah, music is, just to share those moments. I mean, I shared with my mom also so many incredible moments through music. And again, it's finding what feels good to you. There's no one prescription. When you say you like A minor and especially strings, think of the strings like heartstrings, and then A minor is A is the note of the third eye. So, and the minor version of that would be grounding that wisdom of your third eye.
Yes,
I mean, and then you can go into all kinds of things about it, but it's just seeing how's that feel to you when I say those kinds of things, that it's
yes.
really activating your vision and your intuition. Yeah, so I teach trainings, so people that are interested in learning about working with sound and being a practitioner. I offer healing retreats so they can come in person. We just had one a couple of weeks ago that was just really beautiful. You can order bowls from me. The albums are on our website. So the website is Crystal Cadence, and you can have private sessions with me. And I personally curate the sets for you. So yeah, what else? We have a beautiful app. I don't know if you
Yes,
knew.
talk about the app. I was researching that, and I was like, you know what? We need places of peace.
I'm very proud of this. This is also something that my son said, Mom, in 2020, he goes, Mom, we're going to make an app. I'm like, really? Okay. So, I mean, I learned so much, but it's called Source Be Inspired. And,
Yes.
um, yeah, it's doing quite well. It has I think there's 20 visualizers on it. So there's some things for children. There's things for adults. There's extended pieces of music. There's science of sound. So we have Dr. Daniel Levitin is on there, who's a famous neuroscientist, New York Times bestselling author. It wanted for me. Dylan just said to me, Mom, let's make a place where science, spirituality, and the healing power of music intersect. And,
Mm.
it's like, okay, and what does that do for you? Well, you might learn, like, what does it mean to have constructive and destructive sound? What does that mean? What does it mean? There's also embodiment things. So there's something called from Dr. Sue Marter called the Body Awake Yoga. There's long sound baths on there. There's a kirtan from Genevieve Harrison, who I mentioned earlier. So there's all kinds of ways that you can explore what is the magic, mystery, healing powers of sound, and what does it have to do with me? Why should I listen to that? And then there's little meditations for children done by an 8-year-old and a littler girl that did a meditation. She created a song called Listen to the Bowls and You'll
Oh.
Be Happy. It's so
Aw.
sweet. So the idea was also that families could listen, or students could listen, or anyone of any age could listen and explore what's the science of sound, how do I experience this kind of music with intention, and why is it important in my life? That's There's a beautiful woman, Nadia Hutagalong, who she is Buddhist, and she's from Asia, and she's quite a leader in the field, and she does some meditations with us for us. So it's again, a space showing the universality of music, and music really being this language that is a language of the human heart. It unites us.
I one, thank you so much for your energy. Um, I love a I love a peaceful aggressive energy. It's just me. Like that's the women that I love in my life are women who can really talk to you in a very relaxed, warm, inviting, insightful way, but you understand the power behind that, and that's what I get from you, right? Not because of my eyes. I see it. I know. And I truly believe that we women, we're just the heart of so much. And we are the birth centers of so many different languages, so much joy, even sadness, because when we hurt, we do bleed so widely, right? And I think that when we can be in spaces where we are held not only in love but also held accountable, it's like if you're my friend, I want you to heal in a way that works best for you. But if I see you harming yourself, I'm also going to stop and take a moment and talk to you and talk you through it. So, you creating retreats and safe spaces and lessons for us to not only embrace who we are, but to learn more about ourselves, to crack open our spirits and our hearts and really connect with the earth and the universe and our gods, be that whatever it is. I just feel like that is so heroic and it's touching, it's warm. I'm hugging you, but it's aggressive hug, so yes.
You know, I think I learned, and it was very hard, but I think I learned that each of us indeed has a soul purpose and a soul contract. And I learned that my son and our relationship, it was never meant to be a long one in this lifetime. And I
Mm.
really learned that very clearly. And it was like when that moment came, it was like, I don't remember signing that contract with you. And when I see you, we're gonna have a talk about that because mom didn't want to do that, and just it's like when we get out of the victimhood of who we are and we allow our passion and our strength and our courage and to really recognize he wasn't meant to live a long life. And I agreed to that, being his mother. On some level, part of me knew that. And to really go that deep and recognize, oh boy, there are
Yeah.
soul contracts and there are things that, we're here to work through. That was
Oh
a
my
big
god,
one.
that just opened up a whole, like, a whole new just that is a spiritual conversation that a lot of us are not prepared for, that when you learn the lesson, it can feel so lonely because you're like, "Who do I go and tell this to?" Like, how do I release this information? Because I'm still angry now. Now I'm really angry, but I also understand it, like the moment of realization and the anger that comes along with it. And then the moment of acceptance and then you don't accept it anymore because now you're back in denial. And this is why grief is so important. The different stages of grief and understanding your patterns and how you deal with it and how you acknowledge the healing and the lessons that you get from it. You didn't sign the contract physically, spiritually, you signed the contract in a whole nother life that you didn't even know about because you weren't focused on that side.
Of
Oh,
course. But, then you get goosebumps and you recognize, like, after he died, I had a reading with a psychic. I was on a group call that somebody recommended, and there's many people on the call, and she said, somebody just lost a son. And I'm like, everything, my hair stood on end. And then she said, he was never meant to live a long life. You know that. And if he didn't go now at 19, it would have been 22, 23 at the most, right? And when she said that, it was just like, oh my gosh, yes, on some level, I did know that because we lived such a full, incredible life in his 19 years. He got to see a whole lot of the world, etc. So I think that music and sound can help us really hold a bigger space of who am I in this lifetime. I'm not a victim. Things happen and we learn and we go through, like I said to you earlier, when I was really deep in grief and so feeling sorry for myself, I couldn't find him. And when I began to recognize, okay, I need to look outwards and I need to feel this pain, but I also need to look outside of this pain, that's when I would find him again. So, I mean, the challenges that life gives us, we have so much we can learn from it. And then hopefully we can ground and embody those wisdoms and take them forward. And I think for me, that's what my life has become and I always love to teach, but now the teaching is so different from the university. It's just the teaching is on a very human level for everybody. How do you open and free your voice? How do you tune your human instrument? How can sound and music be a medicine for you? These are the things that I'm so passionate about, right? And then, as you asked at the beginning, of this background of doing 8 shows a week and what it means to stand up and sing opera and project across a 100-piece orchestra or whatever, like, what is all that that's in this body, in every cell of me, that now enables me to find this really feeling of love that comes through music and express and share that and help people heal as I've been healing. And again, it's like, we don't know. It's just what you said earlier, also, like, about certain kinds of music and when do you listen to that and when do you listen to that? We don't know, but if we learn to be present and we learn to be accepting and land in that expression of love, there's so many miracles, Lovely. I'm talking to Lovely and she knows all about love. Like, there's just so many miracles that can happen that we just say, "Thank you, God. I'm so grateful. Thank you for that."
Yes, yes. And it's so interesting not to take up the rest of your night because I could talk to you through just eyes. It's so expressive. I love it. I'm like, my mom's always like, fix your face. I'm like, I thought I fixed it. She said, but your eyes are still doing the thing. I'm like, I got it from you. I don't know how to fix it. But just know, honestly, just realizing there's so many different versions of you walking the earth right now and just being able to find these sacred spaces with people like yourself that are willing to let any version of you walk through that door and then walk you through the space that you need to be in. I think in this world that we live in where everything is about conformity and you being held down and oppression, to be in spaces where someone wants to allow you to roar as loud as possible or to be as meek as possible, to be able to hear your own voice, your thoughts, your God, to find your soul and your spirit, it is so needed in this world. You are needed in this world. And though your story is one that you may not have wanted to walk, you were needed to be here. And your son is still guiding you because he's not going to be quiet. It's not going to be quiet.
Wait till I see you again. I'm gonna have a conversation with you.
And he's going to still be loud. It's just the way it works itself out. But I just appreciate you taking your time to talk to us and to connect with us and to let us know that there's a different stage of healing through grief if you allow yourself to open up and to allow yourself to listen and or feel without words. It's a wonderful space to know is out there and that there's somebody who's fighting to keep that space alive.
Grief can ground you. I never thought of it like that, but those emotions that are really contracting for us that we want to push away, they can, if we can accept them and breathe and feel them, they can really ground us. And
Mm,
in that grounding comes tremendous strength. And in that strength comes resilience. And in that resilience comes transformation and healing. And so much, Lovely, for sharing time with me and for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
thank you. And if you guys need anything, I will make sure that I link everything inside of our video because I want to make sure that not only can you find the healing that you're looking for, but also open your eyes to new ways to improve your mental health. So, Miss Glass, thank you so much. I appreciate you, and I hope you have a wonderful night.
Thank you, Miss Lovely.
Thank you. Guys, what did I tell you? What a powerful, soul stirring conversation this was. Miss Glass reminds us that healing doesn't always come from the same source. It doesn't always come through words. Often it comes through frequency, vibration, spirit. It comes through being present. It comes from allowing ourselves to feel what we've been running from, to walk through life with faith, walk through fear with faith. If today's episode touched you somewhere deep, you're not alone. I feel you. I was there too. I had so many more questions and so many goosies at different times throughout our conversation. But I want to let us be reminded that our pain does have a frequency, but so does our healing. Be sure to grab Miss Glass's book, Sacred Vibrations, and follow her on all social media platforms to experience more of her transformative work. I just feel like we deserve a really good deep breath. Do it with me, y'all. Come on. I want you to remember we're going to breathe in on 4. We're going to hold on 4. And then we're going to exhale on 4. Breathe in through your nose. Let that breath out. And remember that your healing is unique to you. And not only is it possible, it's already unfolding. I want y'all to remember that we are learning to do what, people? Learning how to articulate our feelings, wants, needs, and desires so that we can better advocate for ourselves and the people that we love. Thank you so much for being a part of this podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe because we are trying to grow a community of connective spirits that help each other do this thing called life because life is lifing. And we appreciate you being here. Lovely out. Bye, guys.
Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you found some healing, connection, and joy. Until next time, bye, loves.